It is 6 o'clock, so good evening and welcome to the Boise School District Board of Trustees meeting. 1 second, I thought I had my thing turned off and I do not. There we go. Welcome to the Boise School District Board of Trustees September meeting. Before we start, I would like to remind everybody that we conduct our meetings according to the district values of respect, dignity, honesty, responsibility, and teamwork. In keeping with those values, here are the rules for our board meetings. First, out of respect to all of our patrons, trustees, and staff, interruptions to our business will not be tolerated. Any person who tries to disrupt this meeting will be given one warning. If there is a second outburst, that person or persons will be asked to leave. The meeting will not continue until the persons or persons has left the room. Second, our district is currently mandating that masks be worn in our buildings. Please wear your mask during your time in our buildings. Similar disruptions, you will be given one warning to replace your mask. If there is a second incident, that person or persons will be asked to leave. This meeting will not continue until the persons or persons have left the room. Third, if you have input, which we have gotten lots of and we like it, so we appreciate the input and we will continue to take all input, please share it with the board. Right now we're submitting in an email. Our email addresses can be found on the district website, and I assure that every member of this board reads the emails that we receive. Thank you for supporting these board meeting rules. And with that, we will go to the Pledge of Allegiance. Join me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And next, we will go on to one of my favorite parts of the meeting, the Red and Gold Apple Awards, and we're going to do that via video presentation.
Pleasure to recognize an individual who has served the children of the Boise School District for 16 years. This person has been an educator for 43 years, the past 16 in Boise, with stops in New Mexico and Alaska along the way. This person is the lead teacher in the RISE, Reaching Independence Through Support and Education program at Shadow Hills Elementary School. The RISE program provides services for some of the school's most fragile students. RISE students have unique, multiple disabilities, and they all require and deserve individual attention. This person leads a group of paraprofessionals that aim to meet the identified goals of each student. She seeks to find solutions so that they are able to make progress day by day over time towards their goals. When the goals are met, new goals are established. Many of our RISE students will have her as a teacher their entire elementary school career. Because of this, she grows very close to the families and maintains strong relationships with them well after their time at Shadow Hills. This person takes extraordinary care of the students in her charge. It is clear that she loves each one of the students in her program, and her calm presence in stressful times is appreciated by parents and staff alike. She is an outstanding, humble, and service-oriented educator, and Shadow Hills is privileged to have her. It is our distinct honor to present the Red Apple Award for September 13th, 2021 to Pat Taggart, Special Education Teacher, Shadow Hills Elementary School, for outstanding service to the education for educating today for a better tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you so much, Pat.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all, and it's a deep honor for me to receive this, and it's very touching, and I couldn't do all this truly without my colleagues here. They are so welcoming to our students, and I just appreciate all of them, and thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
It is our pleasure to recognize an individual who has served the children and families of the Boise School District for 15 years. This person brings an unparalleled quality of service to each and every person with whom she interacts. As a member of the Human Resources team, this person is responsible for helping certified personnel in the district with a diverse variety of employment matters, including job postings, applicant and new hire processing, and tracking certified personnel credits and credentials. For many teachers, the subject of this person's expertise is challenging and even frustrating. However, she provides a level of care that inspires confidence and relieves stress. Through her everyday actions, she shows that she deeply cares about our employees and that she is here to help in any way she can. This person possesses a great depth of strength and resilience that becomes especially evident in the summer when her workload is at its highest and most stressful. With the pressure of an upcoming school year, this person works tirelessly to ensure that our district has successfully onboarded as many certified personnel as possible. She often dedicates many extra hours and even Saturdays to get the job done. Impressively, even while putting in long and extra days, she still always has a smile on her face with a positive customer-oriented attitude. It is our distinct honor to present the Golden Apple Award for September 13th, 2021 to Karen Mack, Human Resources Clerk, District Services Center, for outstanding service to education and for educating today for a better tomorrow. Congratulations, Karen. Come on over. So these are the words that were said about you, and this is your award. And now it's your turn to be able to say some words.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I just want to say thank you to my HR family and my payroll family. And I couldn't have done it without all of you for the support. And also even to Kathy, because of her wonderful training and support she's given. And just also from the top superintendency on down, it comes from the top, the kindness that you all show supervisors and everyone to the district as a whole. So thank you. I'm truly honored. And I'm not nearly as eloquent as Tony or Kathy would be. And a lot of people were joking, wondering what would come out of my mouth. Sometimes I'm not even sure. But thank you. It truly is an honor and so appreciated. And I love working for this district. You all are amazing. I appreciate you all.
Well, congratulations to both Pat and Karen. And Karen and I have something in common that we're never sure what's going to come out of Dave's mouth either. We'll go ahead and move to the consent agenda items. Are there any items on the consent agenda that a trustee would like to pull? Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion. Trustee Gregory.
President Wagers, I move approval of the consent agenda items that are outlined in enclosures 1 through 18.
And seconded by Trustee Oppenheimer. So it's been moved and seconded that consent agenda items in enclosures 1 through 18 be approved. All in favor? Or any discussion, first of all? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. And we will go straight to another fun thing. I think we have the Everything's Possible campaign. And Director Thamer.
Yes, thank you. Gavin, can you help change that to display the screen? Awesome, thank you. Good evening, President Wagers, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Dennis. I am here along with Ryan Hill, who is Communications Specialist for the Boise School District, and the COO of Stoltz, Tracy Hitchcock, to give you an update on the Everything's Possible campaign. We're going to start by showing you a 30-second video from Michelle. She's a student from Whittier Elementary, and we filmed this about a year ago. So I hope you enjoy, and if you can't hear the words she's saying, Tracy added the subtitles so that we could see what she was saying. I have the sound on, so not sure why. Let's try it one more time. We had some issues with this going through the speaker a little bit earlier, but we had it fixed. I think it'll try now.
I am thankful for my family. I'm thankful that I have school. I'm thankful that we have laws. I'm thankful that I don't have COVID right now. I'm thankful that I have teachers to help me through the year. I'm thankful that I have a computer so I can be online with them. I'm thankful that I have a family and a mom and dad and siblings. I'm happy that I have a roof over my head, and I'm happy that I have a place to live, and I'm happy that I have a community to live, and I'm happy that I'm not on fire.
So it's stories like Michelle's that we just can't help but share through this campaign because I think we all feel the same way. We're very thankful that we are not on fire. Gavin, do you want me to present next or? Awesome, thank you. So when we started our campaign, so it's about 2 years old now. We started in January of 19. Prior to that, there was a lot of conversation as to why we might want to look into doing some sort of marketing campaign for the Boise School District. And I think that we all know that there's many people that are moving into the Boise Valley, and not as many of them as we think should recognize that the Boise School District is the public school district of choice. They have many options in the areas that they come to us from, where they're considering private schools or charter schools, homeschooling options, online options. In fact, the Idaho Head News reported about a month ago that in the state of Idaho, about 10% of our students were in charter schools last year. And we know that they tell their stories, and so we feel it's really important for us to tell our stories, because Michelle's is just one 30-second example of all of the amazing stories that we have to tell in our school district. Communications is very important to us. In fact, it is the 5th goal in our strategic plan. And we also make sure that everything that we do with this campaign upholds our district values of respect, dignity, honesty, responsibility, and teamwork. It is with partnerships with Dan Heller, who is our public relations, Ryan Hill, communications, and we have also been so fortunate to partner with Stoltz, who is a local marketing firm, who truly, I can't tell you how much they love us and how much they support us. In fact, during when we first shut down for COVID in March of 2020, they did a whole quarter of free help for us to help get our messages out to our public during that time. You know, because of this campaign, we really feel that getting through COVID over the last year and a half might have been more challenging if it wasn't for the help of Stoltz and our team of Dan and Ryan. So at this time, I would like to introduce Ryan Hill, who is going to talk about our unique value propositions that make up part of our Stoltz campaign.
Great, thanks, Terry. And President Wagers, members of the board, Deputy or Superintendent Dennis. I think it's one of the things that's really important that Tracy talked about is that when we set out on this campaign, the thing that Kobe and Lisa and the leadership team made very clear is that it had to align very closely with our strategic priorities for the district. And it had to not only reinforce what we do in our strategic plan, but it had to represent our values. And I think Terry did a nice job of pointing that out. And I think it's important for people to remember that this just isn't, well, Michelle's absolutely adorable. There's a strategic point to what we do, and I think respect and dignity are very well reflected in what Michelle has to say. Now, that all said, the strategic plan talking points are kind of boring. So when Stoltz was brought on board, one of the things that they did was they really helped us take what we do strategically in the district and turn that into something that would be appealing from a marketing campaign. And the first step in that process were our unique value propositions. And it doesn't take much of a crosswalk to get to dedicated, passionate teachers to our goal number. I think it's the goal number 3, Nick, which is hiring and retaining the best staff. As you can see, there's a direct line from our unique value propositions to our strategic plan. Each year, we take a couple of the unique value propositions and we highlight those. So this year, as we head into the campaign, you'll see that we will be talking about our high-quality education and our evolving, innovative, and comprehensive curriculum. And I think that that's, as well as the inclusivity that we represent here in the district. I think particularly in a time of a pandemic, the togetherness that our individual neighborhood schools represent and we as a district represent has never been more important. Next slide. And like I said, it not only was this aligned with our strategic plan, but we wanted to be very targeted in how we approach this. I mean, obviously, we're doing this on a, compared to what a private firm would do on I think, a very, limited but very effective budget. But in order to do that, we have to be very strategic in who we look at. And primarily, we're looking at folks who are, kind of in that sweet spot of parenting ages, 21 to 44. College-educated households earning above $50,000 a year. The reason behind that is that those are the ones who, have the ability to make the choices that we're talking about, that we're competing with. They have the ability to transport to a charter. They have the ability to pay a private school tuition. So we look at those things as well when it comes to how we are going to target our audiences. And that have lived in Boise for less than 10 years, as Director Thamer pointed out. As people move into this valley, they're bringing a lot of preconceived notions about what public schools do or don't do, or who they are or what they are about. And I think that the Boise School District story is an exception to the rule that many people may have seen in different places when it comes to their perception of public schools. And then, of course, our secondary audience. And secondary, doesn't mean that they're any less than. It just means that in terms of when we're putting dollars behind it, they don't necessarily rise always to the top. But obviously, we want to make sure that our teachers and our staff and you as a board and our community and business leaders are always supportive of what we're doing here as a district and are engaged in those conversations that we're trying to have from a community relations perspective. That being said, we do have business goals as well as marketing goals for the campaign. First and foremost is to support the district's strategic plan, recruit past students and attract new students, elevate perception of public education as a whole. I think that's incredibly important as well, and create a competitive edge that attracts and retains students, parents, and staff. Marketing goals, increase brand awareness, which I think you'll see as Tracy gets into her part of the presentation, you'll see that we've been incredibly successful with through the campaign. And then secure brand trust with target audiences. Terry talked a little bit about how important this campaign was to have going during the pandemic. And I think that what this did was, while there was a lot of really negative news in the community, not necessarily about public schools specifically, but about the pandemic, is we had very positive and truthful and honest and respectful messages going out year long, talking about the value that this district provides to our community. So I think that both those business and marketing goals are well aligned with what we're trying to accomplish, and certainly that's what I've heard time and time again from the superintendency, as well as the directors, as well as the individual board of trustees when I've spoken with them. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to the Chief Operating Officer of Stoltz Marketing, Tracy Hitchcock.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy Hitchcock. As Ryan mentioned, I'm with Stoltz Marketing Group as the COO. I'm joined tonight by our CEO and President, Jamie Ekman, and my colleague, Adi Bartran, who is a Senior Account Manager. I will just start by saying that we have loved working with the Boise School District. It's a privilege and an honor, and our entire team touches the projects that we do for the district and has a great, great passion for everything that this district does for our community. So just a little bit of a timeline. It started back in June of 2018, where the district had a patron survey that they conducted to try to get a read of pretty much the understanding of those value propositions that the school district brings. As a result, the district put out an RFP in August of 2018, and then Stoltz was lucky enough to be selected and awarded the business. From there, we conducted our own research and identified those unique value propositions, and Everything's Possible, the campaign was created. From there, we presented our ideas for what this campaign could be to stakeholders, and then we launched everything in January of 2019, and that included an Everything's Possible website, content strategy, utilizing social media, which is the most inexpensive and awesome platform for getting messages out, photo and video assets. We created a campaign video, and then factoids like you see there on the right of the screen. And really, I think what is most important and gets to the heart of what the district is about is our focus on teachers and students. You'll notice that all of our photography, all of the different things really focus on the eyes and faces of the dedicated teachers and amazing, bright students of the district. So these are just a couple of examples of how a Facebook post or an Instagram post might look, and then what the Everything's Possible website looks like when you go out there. So we were embarking into year 3 this last year, and we decided that it was time to refresh the look. So you'll just see a difference here, still focusing on the bright eyes and smiles and faces and expressions of students and teachers, but really bringing a brighter, cleaner look so you could even get to those facial expressions a little bit easier. We also added motion to our factoids. I think most human beings with our 8-second attention spans respond to motion, and we have definitely seen that in measuring the results. So just a little bit of motion in there to really still, though, address those value proposition points of high quality education, dedicated, passionate teachers, and all of the other things that the district has to offer our community schools. So since that time, in January of 2019, we've talked with 180 students, 58 teachers and staff at over 25 schools. We've also talked with 8 administrators and trustees, which has also been super fun to get to know you all a little bit better. And we've had 8 photo and video productions. And this is just one key performance indicator that we've looked at from the beginning of the campaign, and that is social media. So the blue is Facebook, Instagram is the red. And you can see huge growth for both. It's about 29% overall for Facebook and about 43% overall for Instagram. And Instagram has really been taking off since the pandemic. So that's an area that we're focusing on going forward. So total impressions for the entire campaign, just over 8,100,000. And impressions are a word that we use in marketing that just means it's the number of times that people have seen something that we've put up, whether it's a factoid about the 5,000 after-school programs or a small video like Michelle's that we got to see earlier. What it means, though, is that it's getting out into the public and in front of the people that are considering the district. And then importantly, the district has conducted a second survey since that first one that they did in June of 2018. It was conducted again in 2020. And we were really, really pleased to see these results. It's important when you invest in marketing to look at the analytics and understand if you're having the impact that you're looking for. That's really important to us as an agency. We want to make sure that that ROI is there. So that first question, some people describe the Boise School District as providing a high-quality education to every student. How well do you personally think this phrase describes the Boise School District? And does it describe the district very well, somewhat well, not too well, or not well at all? And you can see from 2018 to 2020, we had a nice little bump. It started out pretty high to begin with, so to improve upon that is pretty good result for us. And then that second question, based on what you know, do you think students receive a better education in Boise School in Boise Public Schools or local charter schools. And you can see that we had a really nice bump there of about 17%. That says to us that the messaging that's getting out there is getting through to the minds and hearts of those target audiences that we mentioned before. So far, we've done a lot of focus on social media posts. Organic just means we didn't pay for them, right? They're just part of the content strategy that we have. We're posting Monday, Wednesday, and Friday most times with minimal boosting. We've also supported special events over the last couple of years, including kindergarten registration, Teacher Appreciation Week, new school year video for the teachers and staff, end of school video, etc. And then we've also run paid digital ads throughout the campaign. We did that first year in the academic year of 18-19 and again in 19-20. And then in 2021, that was a time to pull back on that budget and make sure that we were utilizing the dollars in the most responsible way that we could as we were going through and navigating the pandemic. So as we look to 21-22, we are looking to expand on the foundation that we have built with this brand awareness campaign. And we will continue utilizing social media in support of special events. We are going to also create and highlight school video tours, so that as a parent is considering sending their child to elementary, junior high, or high school, they will get to have a little view into what that might feel like for their child, and be able to get just a little bit of an idea of what the district has to offer. We're going to increase our calls to action, which means helping drive people to the Everything's Possible website, the district website, and other areas where they can get more and better information. We're going to really highlight some graduate success stories, and this is going to be a fun one. We're going to be incorporating the high schools into these projects to help us create these stories and videos. And hopefully those kids can also learn then a little bit about what we do at a marketing agency. We really want to increase parental engagement through telling more of the Everything's Possible story and making sure that we're inviting parents in. And then we also want to take a look at the district logo and refreshing that as well. So the KPIs are key performance indicators that we'll be looking at this year. We'll continue to look at that social media engagement. Again, it's an easy and inexpensive platform that gives us really good results. We will be measuring the media campaign engagement and clicks. Those are those calls to action. And then measuring Everything's Possible web traffic. We're going to set some very specific goals for unique visitors and users of the website, and then also measuring who chooses to click on taking a video tour of a school. And then, of course, the district will be reissuing the survey again in 2022, and so we'll be able to, again, measure the impact in that awareness among those target audiences. So we'll just finish up with another really cute little video that we put together of students and teachers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gracias.
Come on.
Thank you.
President Wagers and Board of Trustees, that concludes our presentation and update on the Everything's Possible campaign. Are there any questions that you guys might have for us?
Any trustees with a question or comment? Trustee Oppenheimer?
Thank you, President Wagers. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much to Soltz for this amazing campaign. You know, it's funny, for when we first started this, and we as board members oftentimes get to hear such cool stories about what's happening in our district. And oftentimes it happens here at our board meetings. And I know for so long we say, it's great that we get to hear this, but we want all of you and everyone out there to hear this. And I think what this campaign has allowed us to do is tell a pretty hard story, in that there's so many different parts and pieces, in a really comprehensive, fun, exciting way. And I'll also say that this campaign It's not something that's just to pat ourselves on the back and say, oh, we're doing a great job. It really is to tell the story about our teachers and our kids and our programs and the variety of different audiences that we get to touch every day, or the district gets to touch every day. So I just wanted to say thank you. I love the campaign. I'm so excited to see it evolve as it's evolved over the last 3 years, and I think you guys are rocking it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Hawes?
I have a question. So these messages are placed out on Facebook and Instagram. Are there any other media platforms, social media platforms that you're placing these messages on or campaign on?
President Wagers, Trustee Hawes. Well, they're trying to get us to do TikTok, but I'm not sure we're up for that yet. But we, in addition to Facebook and Instagram, we do also have a website that is an Everything Possible website that we direct people to. And then our school district accounts repost everything that Everything Possible posts. So we try to get it through Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and maybe we'll get to TikTok. We'll see.
And then to follow, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, is the best way to just put in Everything as Possible, Boise School District. Is that the best way to get connected?
Yes, President Wagers and Trustee Hawes. And if you're not following us, please do.
Any other comments from trustees? Thank you again. I mean, this is something we started, I think we started working on about 4 years ago, actually, talking about how there was a little bit of a gap between what the district was accomplishing and what the community knew about it. And it became very apparent that our community did not know everything that we were doing in the district. And I really appreciate the fact that you brought many stories to light. Now, there's still many more to tell, and there always will be more to tell. On story, I'm a great believer in stories and telling of stories. And I know that's what you're doing with this, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you all very much. I just want to reiterate how much we enjoy working with Stoltz. They're a delight to work with, but they also produce a very quality product that we're able to share with our community.
Thank you very much. Okay, so next on the agenda is the Pandemic Operations Report, and I guess we'll start off. Director Walker.
Good evening, President Wagers and trustees. To start off our report, I want to start off by giving a sincere thank you to every member of our organization, all certified and classified employees. There's countless examples of extra effort and flexibility that's been demonstrated to meet the challenges with the start of the school year. It's pretty remarkable when you think about it, that we are a month into the school year. And when you look at our interests, go ahead, Gavin, to the next slide. These three interests, when I think of our employees and the work that's been done, it would not be possible without their support and help and the work that's being done on the front lines. So the three interests, again, first one, provide high quality educational experience 5 days a week. Second one, we want to be flexible in our operations. And then the third one, we want to continue to help each of our students to build meaningful relationships with a caring adult. Next slide. With that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to Human Resource Director Nick Smith in just a minute to go over our current district data. But I wanted to provide you with current Ada County data. This is from last week to give you some perspective of where we're at. As of last Friday, the case rate was 371.48 per 100,000. When you look at July 12th, it was 73.51. That's over a 500% increase. So keep that in mind. And then secondly, we met with our doctors last week, and they indicated that they continue to support the measures that we're putting in place and that we need to continue with in-person learning. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Human Resource Director, Nick Smith.
Thank you, Brian. Gavin, go ahead and next slide. All right, thank you. President Wagers and trustees, I've got a few data slides here, similar to the ones I shared with you last year. This first slide that you can see here, this is the positive data and presumed positive data for each week that we've been in session so far. Hope you can see it better than I can from here because those numbers are pretty small. You can see we started out with 23 positive cases, one presumed positive case. That first week, we had a few of these were attributed to students who were positive before school even started. And so we weren't really sure what we were dealing with at that point because students had contracted COVID before we even started the school year. Next week, we went up to 56 positives and I believe it's 9 probables. The third week, we saw a pretty significant jump up to 120 positive cases and 14 presumed positive cases for a total of 134 total. We've seen a downward trajectory this last week, which is positive, and that's what we hope to continue to see with 91 cases of positive, 15 presumed positives. And so we're hoping that to continue to see that trajectory as we move forward. This is the same data, but broken down elementary and secondary. What's interesting about this data is that it's really the inverse of what we were seeing last year. So last year we saw a lot more positives at the secondary level than we saw at the elementary level, if you remember back to last year's data. And this year we're kind of seeing the inverse of that, and we do believe that's attributed to the vaccine being accessible for our secondary students and not accessible for elementary students at this point. Go ahead, Gavin. This is a look at just the positivity rate, percentage positivity rate. So same data, just reflected differently by percent positive. Next slide. And here's a look at the presumed positive data broken out, secondary versus elementary. And you can see there that the numbers have been fairly consistent across the board. These numbers are fairly similar to what we were seeing last year. There does appear to be a fewer presumed positives this year than last year. When you break it down, I think a lot of that has to do with access to testing. Last year, testing was difficult to come by. Oftentimes, only one member of the family would get tested, and then the other family members would be presumed positives. This year, you'll see several siblings come in all coded as positive, because they're all able to get tested. So, this is a look at our cases related to athletics. This is a statistic that we gave you last year as well. And our athletic programs continue to do.
The doctors are saying something wrong. They already postponed Ron's surgery.
Okay. So this is a look at our athletic programs, and our athletic programs continue to do a really nice job of mitigating the spread within their programs and following their athletics operation plans and following the mitigation strategies that we as a district have put in place for them. As you can see, we haven't had a great deal of positive cases within our athletic programs. Of those cases, we have 0 transmission inside the programs. So these are cases that have come from the outside. The students have tested positive, but there hasn't been transmission within the program itself, which is a testament to our coaches and the efforts that they're making, not only during practices, but during games, and to the athletes themselves for following through with those mitigation strategies. So far, so good with our athletic program, similar to what we saw last year. Winter sports and spring sports, same type of mitigation strategies, were very successful. This is a look at the total number of quarantines. You can see we've got it broken down here, elementary, secondary, and total. Again, kind of that first week in August 20th, a lot of these quarantines were due to students who day one couldn't show up to school because they had COVID or had been exposed to COVID before the school year even started. So that first week, we weren't really sure what we were dealing with as far as numbers, but you can see we've had a steady increase during the time and the number of quarantines. And I think it's important that we talk about how we go about identifying our quarantines in our district. So as you guys, I'm sure you've seen in the media, every district is basically defining quarantining different and how they go about quarantining students and staff. And in our district, we follow and adhere to the Central District Health and CDC guidelines for quarantining, and we stick to those measures and in an effort to try and focus on keeping students in session 5 days a week. That's our goal. And so we adhere to those standards, we stick to them, and we work hard to make sure that we're following through on those standards. When you look at the data that I've got up here for you right now, the quarantine numbers listed represent a total number of students and staff quarantined for the following reasons, regardless of where the exposure took place. So whether it was in the community or whether it was at school, we look at these things. So do they have COVID symptoms? Are they awaiting COVID test results? Quarantining for positive COVID test results or a COVID exposure. So again, those 4 reasons, whether it's because of exposure in the school or out in the community. And so when you see these numbers across other districts, you may be asking, why do ours look the way they look? And it's because of the way we're adhering to those standards and the way we are tracking the quarantine numbers. Go ahead, Gavin. This is a look at that same quarantine data broken down by students and staff. The important thing here is really from an operations perspective. Last year, when I talked to you in November, one of the reasons that we came to you and talked and asked for you to allow us to go to remote instruction was basically due to operational capacity. We didn't have enough substitutes to basically backfill the number of staff that were out sick or that were being quarantined. And when you look at this data, what you can see here is that a substantial percentage of our quarantines are tied to students and not staff. Again, this is driven in large part by staff having access to the vaccine and elementary students not having access to that vaccine. If you go back one slide, you can see that our elementary students are by and large where the quarantines are coming from. And again, it's that access to the vaccine that is accounting for that discrepancy. Go ahead. And next slide. And then this kind of led us into the operational discussion. You can see here that the percentage fill rate for substitutes by month, we had a 65% fill rate in the month of August. We're currently sitting at a 62% fill rate. Those numbers aren't great. If I would have done this presentation for you pre-pandemic, our average fill rate is approximately 93% during good times. That's what we average, and that's a really strong fill rate for substitutes. We have over 800 substitutes in the system that are background checked and ready to go. The problem is they just aren't choosing to take jobs in our schools. And so that's when we look at the issues that we're having with substitutes, that's a large part of it. It's not necessarily the number of subs that we don't have access to, it's the number of subs consistently picking up jobs. And the other thing that I would point out about the fill rate, this data is a little misleading too. A couple things on that. One, this is all substitute jobs in the district. So every position in the district that needs a substitute to fill it. One of the issues with this data is that we have had a very difficult time hiring a lot of classified positions in the district, like every employer across the country. And so principals will put in for a substitute while they're still trying to fill that position. And so that has caused our rates of absenteeism to look much higher than they actually are. They're actually unfilled positions that it's reflecting more so than it is people not coming in. That doesn't mean that it doesn't impact our operations, though, so it reflects that. The other thing that I would say is that our certified fill rate is much higher than this. Our certified fill rate averages is right around 82% right now, which is much better. Not as good as we typically would be pre-pandemic, but much better than 62%. So when you look at the classroom teachers and the folks that are in a certified capacity, so classroom teachers, counselors, psychologists, speech and language pathologists, those types of positions, we're averaging 82%. Next slide, Gavin. And this slide is just a breakdown of how we get to that percentage. You can see it's super small, and I apologize for that. You can see that the total number of absences in the month of August, we had 2,792. We're sitting at 2,105 for this month, about halfway through the month. Of those, not every position needs a substitute, right? If Superintendent Dennis is out sick one day, we don't get a substitute for Superintendent Dennis. We've got his substitute right there. If I'm out for a day, we don't get a substitute. So it's really just positions within the schools that need a substitute that we get substitutes for. And so when you look at the fill needed, that's a better reflection of how many subs we actually need in a month. And then you can see the filled rate and the unfilled rate. And that's how we get to that percentage, is the number that are unfilled compared to the fill needed. Go ahead, Gavin. And then these are just an overview of the factors that we're closely monitoring when we talk about our ability to continue operationally and be successful. And then also just meeting those 3 standards that Director Walker talked about earlier. These are the things that we're closely monitoring. The number of COVID-19 cases, which I shared with you tonight, the spread of COVID-19 in our schools. Again, like last year, we have seen very little transmission within the schools. It's coming from the outside. It's students who are getting it in the community or in their home and bringing it into the schools. That is really what we are seeing when we look at the numbers. The number of students and staff who are quarantined, like I shared with you, that's something we're closely monitoring. We collect that data every week. Again, one thing I failed to mention on that quarantine data is also, it's a week look. So we look at a student and whether they were quarantined for 1 day or 5 days, they count as one in that total number. So Johnny Smith might have only been out Monday, but he's still one on that total number. Susie Smith may have been out 5 days. She's still one on those total numbers. So just wanted to make sure to clarify that. And then obviously, as I just shared, we're looking at employee absenteeism and our substitute fill rates. We basically pull that up and monitor it every single day, trying to look at what's going on, where are people going, what are the absences associated with it, why are the jobs not filling, so on and so forth. We continue to look at staff capacity. Our teachers and our staff in general are working harder than they've ever worked before, and they're putting in long hours, and they're doing everything they can to make sure that students are successful. And so we continue to monitor that in conversations with our principals and conversations with staff. And then situational awareness at the classroom, school, and district levels, the effects on learning, and then support from our healthcare professionals. Superintendent Dennis and Deputy Superintendent Roberts have weekly meetings with our healthcare professionals and go to them for guidance and directive. So, and then I think I'm turning it over to Miss Lynette Daw, who is our transportation supervisor.
Good evening, President Wagers, trustees, Superintendent Dennis. I just wanted to take a moment to provide you with an update of where the current condition of transportation and school busing services lies. So Durham School Services is providing our service for us here in the district. And in the morning, they're running approximately 8 drivers short and 13 drivers short in the afternoon. And it really varies from day to day, depending on call-outs. The good news is they have 120 employees staffed and licensed and ready to drive, which is less than the number of routes that we have operational. And so we're able, each day we look at the call-ins, and how it's being managed is having staff drive bus routes. We look at routes that maybe have connections that can be made, and just being creative and thinking outside the box. And that's how we're able to keep providing that service. Durham is continuing to recruit and train bus drivers, and they have a really aggressive recruitment program. And it's actually for, looking at the valley, they're doing really well with that. It doesn't mean we don't need drivers. We definitely still need drivers to continue to fill those positions. They did recently, our biggest thing that we're working on too, besides that, is launching the Durham Bus Tracker app and notifying parents. Communication has been challenging through this, and so they just recently launched this app and started communicating messages to parents to know when the buses are late and when their children may be on a different bus. So we're continuing to monitor that progress. Lastly, I just wanted to mention field trips. Due to the restraints, we have limited field trips and are not doing many of those at all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Trustee Gregory, you had a question for
Thank you,
Lynette?
President Wagers. Lynette, it's good to hear about the launching the app of the tracker notification, because I know that communication is so important, and they appreciate getting word, and sometimes they take care of themselves by networking. They kind of hear about things, but when they get the notification, it just makes them feel like somebody does know where their child is and they are coming home. And so I appreciate all your efforts, and I'm sure that it every day is a challenge to see what's, who's going to show up and who's not going to be. And of course, we don't want them to come if they're infected with COVID. We don't want them sharing them with our children. So this is the dilemma that we're in. But I appreciate your efforts and all those who work to have our bus system up and running as much as and as efficiently as we can.
Thank you.
President Wagers, trustees, Superintendent Dennis. So I'm going to share a little bit about what we're doing in the schools to address the students' well-being as well as the academic, trying to make sure that we're hitting all of our academic successes this school year. So for the student well-being portion, each school this year, we've asked them to put together a goal relating to that, so it's school-specific on what fits their school. So that's exciting to see those plans coming forth. Several schools have implemented specific times in the day dedicated to students connecting with each other as well as their teacher in a non-academic setting. So an example of that might be at one of my schools, they have a soft start. So students come in before the bell rings and they can come into their classroom in a slower pace, less students, maybe a time for them to connect with their teacher, connect with their peers, playing games, things like that, so that it's kind of a calming start to the day, which has been really beneficial. And that's happening in a lot of different ways in all of our schools, examples for that. We've also been able to have some community connections for mental health support provided at several school sites, only through our parent consultation and approval for those services. This allows students, rather than being pulled out of the day to go get some of these services, they can stay in the school and have that work done at the school, but again, only through consultation and request from the parent under their approval. Some schools have put together some regulation stations, a calming place for students to go if they need a break from the day, because again, this year, while we are back 5 days in person, there's some that this still can be stressful and they need a place to calm and be able to kind of gather themselves. Lots of our schools have incorporated positive behavior intervention support. That would be a school-wide approach, a positive approach to having students feel supported behaviorally, and if any interventions need to take place, those are all school-wide. Lots of extra check-ins with students, checkouts for our vulnerable students, so touching base with them and making sure things are okay, what supports do they need for their classes and things. So another example of something being done, our Friendship Lunch Bunch. Again, lots of kids are new back into our schools this year because so many were out last year. They don't know, like, For example, at North Junior High, they have 7th and 8th graders who haven't really been in the school yet this year or been to North. So having a place that they can go at lunch to meet kids and get those relationships going is a safe thing for kids to have access to. We've also increased opportunities for students to engage in activities outdoors where they can experience different things for themselves, and as well as not possibly because they're not wearing the mask and they're just doing things outside. Intentional pairing of students and adult staff as mentors. So not necessarily as their own teachers, but someone who's just going to touch base with them and make sure everything's okay. Just having that one adult to care and show that they are to make sure everything's okay. So these are just a few of the things that we've put in place in some of our schools. Again, every school is focusing it a little bit differently to meet the needs of their students. So moving on to the academic strategies we're doing. So based on the individual needs of the school buildings, lots of different opportunities are either before school, after school, lunchtime. We've got opportunities for the certified staff to be working with students in a tutoring format or peer tutoring format. Lots of different opportunities that we're seeing across the board in most of our schools. We also are using all of our assessment data. Those are informal assessments that we're doing, as well as some of our formal assessments, to collect information where kids are and identify where we can provide intervention and be more specific and targeted to the needs of our students. The next slide. Our schools all utilize the professional learning communities where they collaborate. This year, we are providing opportunities for them to collaborate using that evidence and the classroom assessments and observations to better meet the needs of their students. Another example of something we're doing that we're really excited about is we've partnered up with Pesky Learning Center to give professional development for highly effective reading strategies using our currently adopted curriculum resource for K-3, which is it's a phenomenal resource to be able to have Pesky in our schools providing PD in time right with the teachers rather than pulling them out necessarily. We're also going to continue to provide Google Classroom and Seesaw access for all students in order to minimize the learning disruptions when a student is quarantined for a time period. And we've also allocated specific ESSER funds to address specific needs at a school level. So schools can access that money based on the needs for their particular building instead of all of the money coming at the district level out to the schools. Schools can specifically put out things that would help their school specific. We also have a parent survey coming out soon that will ask also input on the use of those funds as well. Any questions on those 3 slides? Great.
Trustee Gregory.
Thank you, President Wagers. So, Director Donovan, I think that seeing these points that you've reported to us, it really impresses me that, instead of talking about 25,000 students and applying this across the board to 25,000 students, we have principals at every building and teachers at every building that are doing this in more of a face-to-face situation with students that have names and faces known to them. Because, from a board level right here, it would be impossible for us to implement this without someone with boots on the ground in every building in front of every child. And so I think that that's another accommodation for our staff that are doing extraordinary work with students in many different areas. We're looking at, mental health, we're looking at security and safety, new experiences for students, and academics, and all of those feed into success for kids. So extend our thanks to our principals and our staff that are doing these for kids every day. That's really remarkable.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Trustee Donovan? I'm assuming we'll hear about academic success later. I mean, right now the test results haven't come back in, so that'll be coming in future meetings. So thank you.
President Wagers, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Dennis, good evening. Pleasure to be here. As we look at next steps, we've identified some needs in the community. One of those needs is around COVID-19 vaccinations. We're hearing from community members as well as our schools themselves that there's still a need for individuals to get vaccinated. And so we are working with our local healthcare partners to provide some mobile vaccination clinics at several of our schools this fall. Another need that we've identified is around COVID-19 testing. As you've probably heard, access to testing has really become a scarce resource recently. And so as we've researched ways to access the testing for our families, one of the things that we've done is we met with the Department of Health and Welfare recently to explore options available under the governor's funding for testing in schools. And I'm happy to report that one of those options we are already currently implementing. It is called the VAULT test, and it is a PCR-based test that is provided by the VAULT Corporation or the VAULT Healthcare System, which is also actually based out of New Jersey. And we're able to provide families a test kit that they can then take home to the privacy of their own home and work online with a representative from the VAULT Healthcare System to collect that sample. Then it is overnighted at no cost to the family, and the families then receive those results by email within 24 to 72 hours. So that's been a great resource for our families. Another option that is available through the governor's fundings that we're currently considering is testing for students who have symptoms with parental consent. This would require a little bit more bandwidth as far as our ability for our staff to respond and implement that testing. And so we're currently exploring if this is a feasible option for our district. And lastly, we'd be remiss if we didn't continually see the need to reinforce our mitigation measures as identified in our COVID-19 response plan, specifically universal masking, physical distancing to the greatest extent possible, hand washing, regular disinfection of surfaces and touch points, and encouraging and enforcing the fact that students and staff need to remain home when they're ill. In fact, I would say that our Boise School District illness procedure is really the foundation of our plan that's going to help to continually reduce illness in our schools. And it does align with the Central District Health illness decision tree. Any questions about any of those needs or next steps?
Any questions for Tamara? Thank you.
Thank you.
President Wagers, trustees, Superintendent Dennis, that concludes our presentation. At this time, we'll stand for questions.
All right, any questions on the presentation? Trustee Oppenheimer?
Thank you, President Wagers. First of all, I just want to say congratulations to everyone. I am encouraged by the numbers that we're seeing and just all of the teachers and all of the administration who's worked so hard to keep us here. And I'm just really encouraged. I think when we look at the students and the teachers that are out and our athletic program and everything, I feel like we're sitting good. Now, knock on wood, right? But congratulations to everyone who's helping to keep our kids in school 5 days a week, which is our goal. I do have a couple questions. My first question is, I know that you're not tracking this, and maybe this is for you, Director Smith, but do you have a sense of how many of our teachers and or staff are vaccinated at this point?
President Wagers and Trustee Oppenheimer, that's a great question. We feel quite confident that we're sitting around 80 mid 85% range for our staff on total vaccines. But with that said, we're in the process of collecting that data and synthesizing it, and we plan on providing you a report on that. But we do feel pretty confident that we're in the mid 80s.
That's great. Follow up, please. Thank you. I also saw the positive numbers that we're seeing in our athletic programs. I would love to see some other extracurricular activities numbers as well, and I know that's difficult. But seeing that our athletic numbers we're sitting pretty good. Do you have a sense of students that have the ability to get vaccinated, of our student athletes? Do you have a sense of how many of them are vaccinated?
President Wagers and Trustee Oppenheimer, we aren't collecting that data on a broad scale. We collect it individually when it comes to a quarantining situation. We'll ask for proof of vaccine, but we're not collecting student vaccine data district-wide, so we don't have that data.
Okay, great, thank you. I have a couple more, I'm sorry. Follow up.
You've got another
Since
one?
you're there.
Okay.
Since
I'm
you're
up
there.
here.
Well, since he's there.
I've got just really two more questions. First of all, the in terms of substitutes, and it looks like we're doing okay. It looks like you want those numbers a little bit better. The governor announced an initiative around helping school districts and recruiting substitutes for school districts that are in need. How would that impact our school district? And I guess for those folks who are interested in helping, what do you have to do? What does that look like?
Yeah, President Wagers and Trustee Oppenheimer, great question. So there's a lot of unanswered questions still around the governor's plan that was released this last Friday, but we really appreciate the intent around it. Obviously, substitutes are a key element to us remaining operational, right? And so we're looking into some of the details of that plan. It's broken into two parts, one of which he's given a specific leave reason to state employees to sub in their local school districts. So we have some questions around that and how we go about with the background checks for those individuals. All individuals working in schools unsupervised with kids have to have background checks. Mm-hmm. So we're looking into what that looks like and what those details will be. The other piece is the $10 million that is being set aside for bonuses for substitutes. And we're in the process of finding out how are those funds going to be distributed, how much does the Boise School District qualify for, and based on the answers, that's going to help drive how we look at utilizing those. We have some really good plans actually put together for how we would utilize those funds. Our focus really is going to be on incentivizing the subs that we already have in our system to take more jobs. Because like I said, we've over 800 substitutes that told us that they were planning on substituting this year. So they're either new into the system, so we have just recently onboarded them, or they were substitutes from previous years that confirmed that they intended to work this year. And so we feel pretty good about the numbers in the system. It's how do we incentivize them to pick up more jobs? Sure. And so our focus with those funds, again, depending on how much there really is coming to the Boise District, will be to utilize those funds to incentivize people to pick up more jobs within the course of a month. And we've got a pretty good plan for that. Now we're just waiting on those details from the governor's office.
More details to come. So
more details to come.
I appreciate
it. My pleasure.
I think I'm done. I'm sure something else will come up, but thank you very much.
Any other questions from trustees?
President Wagers, I have a question.
Sure, Trustee Esty?
Thanks. Also for Nick, when substitutes decline work, are we asking them why they're declining? Do we have any insight into whether it's safety concerns, financial?
President Wagers and Trustee Esty, so the way our system is set up is they don't actually decline. They didn't go and pick a job up. It's an approach where they have to actually go into the system and select and accept the job. So they're not actually declining. But with that said, we did talk today that we are going to survey our substitutes to see if we can get an idea of what is prohibiting them from wanting to pick up jobs right now. I have some theories on it based on the demographic of our substitutes. A lot of them are retired teachers. And The elderly are especially susceptible to COVID, and so I think a lot of them have chosen for health reasons. But we are going to put together a survey to survey our substitutes and find out the why, and also find out what may help them feel comfortable coming into our schools.
Perfect, thank you. That's exactly what I was getting at.
Any other questions?
Other questions, trustees? I do have one, and I don't, whoever wants to can answer, but it's about, so I recognize that different districts seem to have many different numbers as far as the number of cases and quarantining. Can anybody, and I know there's different, people are doing it different ways. Can anybody shed a little light on that as far as how we do it versus potentially other districts?
President Wagers, if you don't mind, I'll probably take
Sure,
this one.
Superintendent Dennis?
I think it's really important for us to understand that the data that is being presented publicly by school districts across the state is all over the place. So some districts are counting cases that only occur in their school district itself. So there is some sort of a community spread event occurring in the district, and those are the only cases that they're reporting. Some districts, like our district, is counting any case that could have an operational impact on our district. So it's all over the board, even as far as cases, which you would think would be a fairly easy thing to compare. The quarantining numbers is a whole different conversation, and Director Smith kind of alluded to some of that earlier in his presentation. That you know, some districts are quarantining, some aren't quarantining, some are contact tracing, some aren't contact tracing. So comparing districts is really apples and oranges, and I think that's a really important piece. I also want to make the point, and Director Smith, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we count our quarantine numbers, we do it once a week on Fridays. And we do that, and if a student or a faculty member is out, no matter if it's 1 day or 5 days, they are counted in those numbers. So it may very well be that we have a case where a kid is considered a close contact, there is some contact tracing that is taking place, may have to stay home for a day, and then the very next day they're back in. We still count that kid as a quarantine number. So I think it's important to understand how we are counting those things, and trying to compare those to any other district they're not the same numbers.
So, and contact tracing, that's a whole nother story as well, I think. Could you elaborate on that?
Well, you know, and I want to be really sensitive to some of our other districts too out there, because staffing is an issue when it comes to contact tracing. Our district is fortunate in the fact that we have the ability to have nurses and health techs in all of our buildings. Some districts don't have that in their districts. We also have contact tracers that we have hired in order to help take the burden off of some of our healthcare workers, in order to identify those kids who potentially have issues. So yeah, it's not the same. A lot of districts don't have those abilities, and I think we're fortunate that we do.
Thank you. And just one comment. I mean, I'm thrilled we're still in-person school. I mean, that's always been our goal, and I appreciate the thoughtfulness of this plan and the depth of this plan, that our focus is keeping kids in the classroom in front of teachers where the magic really happens. And I know, you know, the concern for me is at least substitutes and transportation. You know, those things, can we still keep everybody in school and keep operating? Any other questions or comments? Trustee Oppenheimer?
I told you I'd have one more. Thank you, President Wagers. Quick question. We still have the online option for parents who feel that they need that for their children. Is that still an option for parents? And do they contact their principal if they're, you know, as we're evolving and they're not feeling safe, or for whatever reason they contact their principal? Is that still the case?
President Wagers and Trustee Oppenheimer, I'm getting the yes nod from everybody. So
Okay.
yes,
So
it's still
yes.
an option, and they should just contact their building principal if that's something they're interested in.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from trustees? Online? All right. Well, that will put an end to the pandemic operations report. Our only other business is an executive session. So I would need a motion to go into executive session.
President Wagers.
Trustee Greeley.
Motion to move into executive session according to Idaho Code Section 74-2061F.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Trustee Hawes. It's been moved and seconded to go into executive session. Clerk Mass, can we have a roll call vote to enter executive session?
Trustee Esty?
Yes.
Trustee Greeley?
Aye.
Trustee Gregory?
Aye.
Trustee Hawes?
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheimer? Trustee Wagers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. So we will recess until the end of executive session. We will actually be leaving and going to a conference room to discuss our executive session. And then we will come back in to reconvene and do, after that, we may take action from executive session. And then we'll have board superintendent comments at the end of that portion of the meeting. So you're welcome to stay, you're welcome to leave. It's kind of up to you as far as what, but we will be going back to the back room for a conference. I would entertain a motion.
President Wagers,
Trustee Gregory.
I move we go back into open session. Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Trustee?
Aye.
Trustee Greeley?
Aye.
Trustee Gregory?
Aye.
Trustee Hawes?
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheimer? Trustee Wagers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, welcome back from executive session. So we have possible action from executive session.
President Wagers.
Trustee Hawes.
I would move that the board approve joining the litigation against Jewel Labs in company and authorize the superintendent or his designee to take all necessary steps to join and participate in this lawsuit.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Trustee Greeley. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll go to a vote. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll go ahead and move right into board trustee superintendent comments. Anybody have any comments? And thank you to the administration for nice presentation and keeping us straight and narrow. Trustee Gregory.
President Wagers, yesterday, 2 days ago, Friday and Saturday, our 3 resolutions were approved for due pass recommendation to the ISBA body. All 3 of our resolutions. And we're only going to have potentially 8 resolutions before the body this time.
Wow, so 3 out of 8.
Instead of 17, they'll just be 8. Wow. And ISBA is working. One of the resolutions will be a resolution that consolidates philosophical resolutions that keep reoccurring, that we have to redo every 2 years. So things like the 2/3 majority on property tax, adequate funding, and local control, or there's several. They have a list of like 3, and they'll be reviewed every 2 years to see if something goes on or something comes off. But this will mean less work for the staff because they won't have to be redoing the effort to pass resolution again and again and again.
Great. Well, thank you for your work on that, and thank you to the legislative committee if you're on the legislative committee, thank you for your work on that. Superintendent Dennis.
President Wagers and trustees, just to dovetail on that, Wednesday night is the ISBA Region 3 meeting at 6 o'clock, I believe, and it is virtual. So if you haven't gotten your invite, I think you can reach out to either Nancy or I. And if you have an opportunity to attend, we'd appreciate that.
I think you may have gotten the postcard today.
Yes.
Announcing the in-person meeting, but it was already in the mail when they pivoted. So.
And one last thing, President Wagers, I would also like to just kind of publicly thank Boise State for their efforts in providing the testing that they have done for our families and our staff. It's been a godsend to us to be able to have such quick turnaround, and they've been an unbelievable partner. So, Trustee Esty, if you have an opportunity to pass that along, our sincere thank you to Boise State.
It does take a village. It does.
Thank you. I will do that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. Trustee Gregory.
I move we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Trustee Hawes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Everybody have a good night. Thank you.